Hey guys, welcome to another reaction video on this channel. I know, I'm sorry, there's been these constant amount of reaction videos lately. These are just the easiest things to make, and since I kind of have a schedule of uploading weekly, I have to resort to making these videos. And also I kind of find my reactions a bit cringe after watching them. But don't worry if you find them cringe. I won't come to your house and dox you like a certain someone. Yeah, anyways, you may be wondering why am I doing the intro like this? Well, I originally had an intro for this video when the first half of the footage for this video corrupted and I lost it. So then I sat there wondering if I should even upload this. And then I had the greatest idea of reacting to that first half and explaining my thoughts I had at the time of the original reaction. Yeah, the second half is actually fine and it's fully there. So, after the first half is finished, I'll showcase the actual reaction for the second half, which I think is a lot more interesting since the first half involved a lot of rambling beforehand. So I prefer the second half a lot more than the original first half. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So enjoy the reaction. Okay, anyways, let's just get started to record this again. There you go.
This video was brought to you by my loyal patrons. Pledge today and receive exclusive perks. Link in the description.
Dear Christopher,
And of course, this infamous intro.
here is your friend Thomas the Tank Engine. He wanted to come out of his
It kind of
station
feels out of
and
place
see
for
the world.
this type of era, but
These
whatever.
stories tell you how he did it.
Oh boy, here we are, folks. After 7 seasons, a movie, and a spin-off series, we've finally reached it. The hit entertainment era of Thomas and Friends.
The heck.
Season 8.
The hit era.
The season where everything changed twofold. Now, a lot of people say that Season 8 is the good season of the hit era.
Yeah,
so I'm
I
interested
guess it
in
is.
seeing exactly what it offers. It's been a long time since I've watched this season in full, so this should be interesting. So, let's dive in.
Yeah, I should also clarify that I had recently rewatched season 8 or just the hit era entirely, and I will say a lot of this. Of course, most of the hit era is absolute garbage, but I will say I found myself enjoying season 8's content a lot more than whatever goes on in here in the rest of the era. Okay, let's go. The production history. How they made it.
Following Hit Entertainment's purchase of Ghislaine in 2002,
Rip.
they plan to reinvent Thomas in their image. Their plans for the series would officially roll out in 2004, with the release of Season 8.
Yippee!
Season 8 is what I can only describe as a soft reboot. It's almost like starting from scratch again, but also not totally ignoring all past events and canon. This soft reboot would focus on making the show more overtly educational, with more simplified vocabulary and very clear morals for a much more targeted younger audience, rather than the more general kid audience that the previous seasons were. The entire format of the show was changed, lengthening the previous 4.5-minute episode runtime to 7 minutes, and greeting the show with a new theme song called The Engine Roll Call, composed by Ed Welch. The classic synthy Thomas theme song by Mike O'Donnell and Junior Campbell was no more, and Welch's roll call was in.
Died from cringe, bruh.
A new score composer was also brought on, Robert Hartshorn, fully taking the torch from veterans O'Donnell and Campbell. O'Donnell and Campbell weren't the only Thomas alumni to take their leave this year. Following creative differences with the hit team, director David Bitton stepped away as well, being superseded by his longtime assistant director, Steve Asquith, who would stay on as the show's main director until the end of the model era. This soft reboot saw the cast streamlined to focus solely on 8 primary characters, to re-establish them to audiences. This new core
Yippee!
cast of characters, Thomas, Percy, James, Gordon, Henry, Edward, Emily, and Toby, were dubbed the Steam Team, with their home base being Tidmouth Sheds. Much of the already supporting cast was tossed aside,
Rest in peace.
with the only secondary characters that appear being the usual staples, namely Diesel, Birdie the Bus, Harold the Helicopter, Trevor, Cranky, etc.
I commented on this when I saw this, but I barely recall Trevor ever showing up in any of the episodes. Like, I recalled him, I hadn't even seen, like, the first episode of Season 8, I remember. So I didn't even know Trevor, like, showed up really that much. I felt like, he was kind of outcasted a bit more. But whatever.
And a selection of newer characters introduced in Seasons 6 and 7. Other than them, no one else really appears. Even the narrow gauge engines were sidelined this year for the Steam Team to be the focus.
Rip.
In attempt to add
that's
some
a
more
good
female
thing.
diversity to the main cast, Emily, who was introduced in Season 7, was now pulled in as a main character, and so was given quite a few leading roles this season.
Definitely.
The Ferrero
Oh my
Rocher
god,
chocolate
wow!
bar.
Prior to Season 8's production, head writer Abby Grant was tasked with reworking a writer's guide for the series, outlining all the
God, this
characters,
writer's guide.
locations, style of writing, etc.,
etc.
for new writers to the series, to make sure consistency was kept. This
Consistency.
document was titled The Thomas and Friends Writer's Bible, and was created in 2003. As useful as a tool as this guide was, it unfortunately stated many bizarre inconsistencies. This would be the source of most of the inconsistencies and weird decisions in the show and characters moving forward. Things like Henry being said to be a hypochondriac that needs special coal, and Sir Handel being a very friendly engine that gives 110%.
I really question where did this shit come from. Like I was like on this rant, like in the original footage, just talking about where the hell did they get these descriptions from. Like, it's just like, bruh, really?
There are some interesting pieces of lore in this document, like how it mentions Boko and Stepney of all characters.
Yeah, same goes for that. That like actually shocked me. Like my brain just suddenly went because of how how I didn't even notice that. Like Boko literally just died after season 5, with only his last words being,
If I were you, whispered Boko, I'd get back to work right away.
and then with Stepney, he showed up in like season 12 in the most forgettable scene ever. And his last words were only in the US dub.
Oh my.
But the main thing to take away is that this is what all the writers for the show moving forward would be using as reference.
Yeah.
There are some sections of this guide that give us a very clear understanding of the direction HIT wanted to take Thomas. This section on the engine's drivers, for example, says this.
God, this
The status of the
section
drivers or firemen has changed from that in series 1 to 7. Previously, the drivers had to be mentioned when describing actions or movements that the engines made. For instance, engines could not just slow down or go faster. Their volition had to be filtered through the driver, i.e., the driver applied the brakes. But this has all changed. Now you don't need to mention drivers and firemen, unless their presence is material to the story. Allowing the engines a greater degree of volition means many more story choices can be made.
What story choices can be made with making the show even more unrealistic than before? The only unrealistic thing really is just trains with face. Yes. I hate that direction. But then just makes the fucking trains look like they're doing this shit themselves.
Now the engines can just do whatever they want, or go wherever they want if a story needs them to.
Yep. Yeah. And when Thomas just gets all angry, like, "Grrr, you don't tell me surprise!" Dips. Bruh. If this was a classic era episode, everyone would be yelling about it in confusion, which also just makes, and also just going with the realism with the driver and fireman stuff, this would just seem like the driver and firemen are also petty as hell.
I also want to highlight this bit in the writing style guide, where it goes over age-appropriate language. Big words are encouraged to be avoided, and harsh vocabulary replaced with gentler terms. For instance, we never say frightened, terrified, or horrified.
No, we don't say those words in real life, clearly. No, that's like illegal. If you say that in real life, you go into fucking jail. Like, my God.
We say scared. Characters never hate or detest things. They don't like things. The writers are encouraged to play down to the kids now, and keep all the dialogue simple, which is something the Reverend W. Awdry himself personally disapproved of.
Yep. Playing down to children. The worst thing you could ever do.
I'm not going to go through this whole document, but I have linked it in the description for you to read through on your own time. The key thing to take away here is that HIT wanted to essentially dumb down Thomas for a much more targeted younger audience, and this writer's Bible is proof of that.
Than he already was.
The more technical side of things saw some major changes too. The 35mm film cameras used throughout seasons 1 through 7 were replaced with Sony digital camera equipment, making this the first season filmed in all digital, and all in 50 frames per second instead of the previous 25 frames per second. And boy, oh boy, is it noticeable.
I didn't take notice of that. I didn't even know the classic Arrow had that low of a frame rate. It's kind of shocking with that little comparison there. It's just like, oh God. Scary.
For tracking and POV shots, they started using what I can only describe as a GoPro camera. The quality totally changes in these shots. They must have not liked how these looked, because they would use whatever camera this was for these shots very sparingly in the following seasons.
I question, seriously, why the fuck did they use this fisheye lens? Like, why? What makes us get more immersed into this world? How does this help? Like, seriously, this does not help, like, at all. It just makes it look goofy. It looks like they're trying to do that, like, fisheye effect, where you make make someone's head all giant, and, like, they got this giant-ass nose, or even a large forehead, I don't know.
Another new addition to the series with this season were a series of learning segments. Small educational bumpers that would appear between episodes on home media or when they aired on TV in half-hour blocks. But as these are separate from the episodes themselves, I'm not really going to talk much about them, as this video is on the season, not the supplementary material. It's the same reason I haven't talked about any of the music videos for the previous seasons. But these bumpers are a good example of how things started getting watered down this year.
I'm not sure why, but I was saying in the original that for some reason that camera pan and like this whole setting just for some reason screamed the classic era to me. Maybe it's like how dirty the freaking footage is that's fucking with my mind. I don't know. It's there's something in here that just screams classic era for me. And I don't know what it is, and I don't know how to explain it.
With all this change, there was at least one constant that carried over, and that was the narrators. In the UK, longtime narrator Michael Angelis returned and continued on business as usual. Michael Brandon, who had just taken on the role of the US narrator, returned as well. And because of Season 7's weird distribution over here in the States, Season 8 was a lot of people's first time hearing his voice. That is a lot of change that occurred in a very short amount of time. In the span of a year, Thomas now had new owners, a new format, new episode length, a new theme song, a new score, new digital cameras, and a new primary cast with a large chunk of the already established supporting cast gone. Needless to say, Season 8 did not go over that well with longtime fans when it first released, and it has been the subject of criticism from fans for years. It is nearly 20 years old now, though. Wow, time flies. And a lot of people have reconsidered this season to be the good one of the HIT era. Now, it's been a long time since I've watched the season in full. So now with all this out of the way, let's see just what Season 8 has to offer.
Yep. Oh my goodness, why? Overview, the whole shebang.
I think a lot of you watching are expecting me to tear Season 8 a new one. I mean,
definitely
I came
was.
out of season 6 not really liking it as much as I used to. Surely, I'm going to dislike season 8. And
I was
well,
expecting that.
you're not totally wrong to think that. However, I don't want this to be a hate fest. And I think it's important to talk about all of the season's aspects, good and bad. So let's start with all the good. First off, Steve Asquith is now firmly the main director of the show. And right away, it's easy to tell the direction style is notably different than Mitten's. Asquith loves zoom-ins and zoom-outs on characters' faces and panning across the sets and establishing shots. There's clearly a heavier focus on camera movement. I really like this. It adds a lot of life to the visual style.
And also, I just want to talk about this. This wasn't in the original video, but I just want to talk about how in that episode where Thomas is looking for a fucking tuba man behind some damn trucks, like he's going to be there. Wow, this really shows Thomas's development. He's really grown up to be such a great engine.
I don't think Asquith was a bad director by any means. He had consistently worked on Thomas since season 1, and he knew how to film with models pretty well by this point. Speaking of models, the model work is just as good as it always is. There's plenty of impressive sequences this season, like the storm scene in Emily's Adventure when roofs are ripped off buildings, the haunting, foggy look of the scrapyard in Halloween, and many of the crashes in general. Also, this moment when Henry rams the buffet car.
It was just so stupid how like how just like it reminds me of those like memes where it was just like how like the slightest thing you do and then just the entire thing explodes. Like you push something slightly and then explosion.
The comedic timing of this scene is hilarious. The fact it's all miniatures is what makes it work. I think it was the model work alone that kept me watching the show in spite of all the changes. Practical models doing anything regardless of context.
That is stupid. That was just stupid there for the entire scene there. It was stupid.
Will always be charming and impressive to watch. Though I have to say, I am starting to feel the sets are all becoming kind of samey. We don't really deviate that far from green countryside much this year. And all the open-line sets are pretty consistently just 3 straight tracks.
In that panning shot of Gordon, I was noticing like the freaking like edge of the set. I think it was. I don't know. It looked like the set just ended there. So yeah, we need like better like backgrounds. Whatever that is.
A little more variety would be appreciated. Those mountainy, picturesque backdrops that mysteriously disappeared in Season 7 are also sorely missed here, and as a result, sometimes sets feel rather small without that implied distance. The new higher frame rate doesn't exactly help sell the illusion either. The smoother footage makes these trains look even more like models. Another notable change this season, and a very positive one at that, is the inclusion of more diverse human props. Prior, most humans we saw were all Caucasian-skinned.
I had never freaking noticed that, like, for some reason. I had never noticed that freaking every human in Thomas and Friends in the classic era was white. Never noticed that. And then of course the hit era being more diverse, which I do appreciate. I love my inclusivity.
But with this season onwards, now we see humans with all sorts of skin colors. It's a small but nice way for the show to be a bit more inclusive.
I really hate that scene in Chickens to School or just any scene like that where the models are just moving around. Like it makes me feel uncomfortable. I started cringing at that when I was a child watching this stuff.
Speaking of the humans, you can tell they really enjoyed sprinkling in bits of humor when the humans got focus. Things like Sir Topham Hatt showing up to the sheds in the middle of the night in his pajamas, Farmer McColl's house being filled with sheep, or the poor teacher scared for his life when chickens take over the school. The humans' presence as active participating characters and stories starts to dwindle with this season. The days where Sir Topham Hatt would get an episode to himself are long behind us, but they are still very much around and well loved, at least by the model crew.
Yep. definitely.
Another positive that I want to note is the use of sound. There's a real exploration of sound effects this year, adding to the atmosphere of scenes. Some that I didn't actually notice before until this latest rewatch. Like in this scene of Thomas filling up on water.
Later, when James stopped for water, Thomas was already in front of them.
Here's some metal sounds and a subtle water-filling sound effect. It's nothing impressive, but it's neat. I don't think they've ever really done that before. In Halloween, there's all these wonderful and chilling sounds of metal and chains that give the area a creepy, ominous feel.
Come on, Peloton.
Oh my god!
And the best use of sound this season, in my opinion, is the sequence of Edward pushing Gordon and the Express up the hill in You Can Do It, Toby. I love the lack of narration and the focus on the chuffing sounds and steam gushing and the metal grinding. It really makes you feel like you're there. The trains feel giant and heavy and real. Completely unrelated footnote, but I'm mentioning it here because I'm talking about sound effects. Has anyone ever noticed the weird-ass jet plane sound effect they gave Spencer here?
Up ahead, Spencer had to stop.
Why does he sound like a jet engine whirring down? What do they mean by this?
I get it when they use that sound effect when he's like passing by like incredibly fast, but usually just when he's like entirely like when he's just stopping, like bruh, dude's powered by a jet engine or what?
A common theme of the season is the engine's fear about being scrapped. It comes up weirdly often, and I never noticed how prominent it was before. We have an episode about Gordon worrying he's starting to fall apart.
What if Diesel's right, he thought. What if Sir Topham Hatt scraps me?
And what will become of him?
Shit is a good beat.
We have Percy mishearing Topham, thinking he's going to be sent to the scrapyard.
Percy has been late too often this week, said Sir Topham Hatt. He must go to the scrapyards tomorrow.
Sir Topham Hatt wants to scrap me, Percy.
And we have this really chilling vision Thomas has after Diesel tells him his time is limited.
What if Sir Topham Hatt scraps all of us?
This is quite eerie. Ooh.
Pretty frightful stuff. The season's Halloween episode even takes the characters to the scrapyard, where it's rumored scrap engine's ghosts lurk about. It's pretty interesting seeing how these characters all deal with the same fear in their own ways. Gordon just keeps pressing on till the end, Percy runs away and hides, and Thomas proves his worth. In an era where the episodes are becoming more dumbed down and revolve around more kiddie things like magic carpets or snowman balloons or circuses, these plots that deal with a more grounded fear, like being scrapped, stand out in a good way.
Yes. Yeah, I do agree with that. I'd much rather have an episode about like some deep meaning about like scrapping and stuff than just some goofy episode about oh no, I'm being chased around by a snowman. Ah!
A lot of the negatives that we started seeing in Season 6 or so are very present here, and I think that's largely due to the new Writer's Bible being based on that season. The Bible references Season 6 quite a few times, which makes sense, since that would have been the newest season out at the time. Many episodes start with that filler intro to pad out time. You know the one I'm talking about, where the narrator just tells us what a beautiful day it is on Sodor, and what job X Engine is doing.
It was a glorious summer day on the island of Sodor. Toby was collecting milk from the dairy. James was pulling passengers to Brendam docks. It was a cool summer's night on the island of Sodor.
Okay.
All of the engines were very busy and there were lots of jobs
Oh
to
my
do.
god, this is so bad.
Gordon pulled the express and Percy took the mail.
Before finally jumping into the actual story.
Yay.
Not to mention, morals are becoming far more present, and they have to be outright stated. Sometimes it's fine, and sometimes it's very ham-fisted and blatant. Emily's adventure, I think, is the worst case of this, where Thomas has to literally tell Emily to ask nicely if she wants something.
That's because you're a big bossy boiler. You should try asking nicely for a change.
Oh, I don't want to ask nicely. No, boo-hoo, but I don't like being called a bossy boiler. Shut the fuck up, Emily. Oh my god. I fucking hate you in every single episode of the Hit era you're in.
This is in stark contrast to the previous era, where morals were subtle. Story and characters were prioritized
What was the moral of
first,
this episode
and
again?
were written in a way that didn't talk down to children. It's something that George Carlin himself praised the show for during his time on it.
The morals of these stories were never jammed down the kid's throat. They weren't blatant. They weren't in capital letters. They were gently massaged into the framework of the show.
Emily was pleased. She'd arrived on time. Asking nicely was all she had to do.
Rip. That thing still gets me.
Another thing I want to note about this season is its pacing. Now, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but the pace of the episodes is a lot slower, with long, uninterrupted takes of the engines traveling, and we're just watching the story happen slowly.
Okay, yeah, this is the part where I actually have the OG footage, so I say that's about it for me, for my takes right now, at the moment, and I'll cut back to me reacting to this originally. And so yeah, see ya. Yeah, let's just continue onwards.
Now, I think this is partially due to the new longer runtime, but also partly because of the new style that they're going for. Instead of being snappy like previous seasons, it's slower, so everything happening is easy for the younger audiences to follow.
Yep.
You know what this reminds me of? Theodore Tugboat.
What the?
Yeah, y'all remember that show?
Not really.
Even the score here is kinda similar, going for a more calmer vibe. This works fine in Theodore since this was like its thing, but here it's a little strange feeling, because prior Thomas was always edited at a quicker pace. The previous 4.5-minute runtime meant they couldn't waste time.
Yeah, they just like, okay, we gotta do this quickly. Like speed run the entire story. Like it's like explaining the FNAF lore. Something I don't know.
Now with a 7-minute runtime, simpler stories with less substance than before are being drawn out. It's like Thomas ASMR. I'm not saying it's bad per se, just really noticeably different to what came before. I have to wonder how much more enjoyable these episodes would be if they were edited to a 4.5-minute runtime.
Oh my god, this is why did that scene take 5 years for Trevor to just move? Also Farquhar, damn. This is like one of the few times, I think it's like the only time it shows up in the Hit era, I think.
I find many of the episode plots this year to be rather repetitive. I mentioned earlier that we have 3 different episodes that all see their main character dealing with the notion that they may be scrapped one day. But we also have 2 episodes that feature a character taking over the express for Gordon when he's away. 2 episodes where Thomas takes on too much work and learns he needs to let others help him.
Oh my god, I didn't even notice that. And I hate both of those episodes as well.
And 3 episodes where Thomas rushes to do a job and screws it up because he refuses to be patient.
Oh my god. Jesus Christ.
Everything is starting to feel kinda samey, and I wonder if that's a result of the writers being rushed to fill a 26-episode quota every year now, or a matter of them being so limited with the new, smaller cast. As a soft reboot, Season 8 feels like it is almost starting from scratch again. Almost like a new Season 1 with its minimal cast and having characters learn lessons that they learned ages ago. But at the same time, it's not totally ignoring the past events, and characters that were introduced previously are still canon. So it puts the show into this weird middle ground where the previous history exists, but the main characters have been dumbed down.
Yeah, they probably, the men in black probably showed up and wiped their memories of their entire life-changing experiences.
Reverted into younger, sometimes unrecognizable versions of themselves. I think the weirdest retcon of the whole season is that Henry never pulls passengers.
Wow.
I'd like to pull passengers, sighed Henry.
Huh?
Just for a change.
What you talking about?
And he doesn't know how to? Like, what?
Henry wished he would never have to pull passengers ever again.
I think you forgot.
And then, in other episodes, they show him pulling passengers.
Bruh!
They couldn't even stick with their own retcon in the same season.
What the hell?
I'll talk more about this in the characters section. That is to say, though, the characters aren't fully gone yet. There are bright spots throughout the season where the true versions of themselves shine through. I love Thomas and Percy defending Edward in Edward the Great.
Thomas and Percy were cross. Edward was their friend.
Well, no
An
shit.
honest Steamy can beat a pouty puffer any day.
Gordon being unimpressed with the magic carpet is funny.
A carpet? No wonder Sir Topham Hatt gave the job to a small engine.
I love Percy cheering on Toby.
You can do it, Toby! Go on, cried Percy.
Bruh.
And my favorite moment of the whole season
Oh my god.
is this.
Gordon said a really useful
my
engine
God,
never
this-
needs help, moaned Thomas. Ha! Laughed Edward. I'm always helping Gordon up the hill.
That is a goated Edward moment.
That's like one of the few times, like, I watched a video about how, like, there's only like 4 minutes or something of Edward being Edward in the hit era. With 4 minutes, it was barely anything. Like, Jesus Christ. This is one of the few times where Edward is the true Chad again.
Perfectly in character. The new score by Robert Hartshorn fully comes into play this year. If you're a US viewer like me, you got your first taste of it in Season 7.
Yep.
If you're in the UK and you're watching the show in order, then your first taste of it was in the Jack episodes. But now it's the main score for the rest of the show moving forward. And to its credit, it's not a bad score. There's a ton of standout moments that stick with me. I like that pitter-patter when the snow starts falling in Snowplow.
Oh, okay, let's continue. Yes. Back to the here.
I like that theme used at the beginning of Chickens to School.
I just found it annoying because it's the music used in that episode that I hate the most.
I really like those drums and the epic build-up when Toby is pushing Gordon up the hill.
Purina Cat.
No! Damn.
I love this whole piece in general. It's really inspirational sounding. And of course, the chilling choir score throughout all of Halloween.
Yep.
Robert Hartshorn is a good composer, and he later really shines on in the CGI era when his stuff got more experimental. I think the overall attitude towards the new score is a result of it being tied to these dull, drawn-out episodes.
Yep.
We hear this music, and it's this era that comes to mind. The era that featured stories about snowman balloons, and the main characters being written wrong, and the narrow gauge engines acting like little children. On its own, separate from the content it's connected to, it's not at all bad. Not to mention, all the individual character themes are all new. To me, it's such a strange decision that after 20 years of associating the themes by O'Donnell and Campbell so closely with these characters, to have them all thrown out and everyone is just given new ones.
I do like it though.
I can't think of any other show or movie series that has done this. Imagine if, like, Star Wars just randomly decided to ditch the Force theme and invented a new piece of music we're supposed to associate the Force with. That is basically what happened here. I understand this was an intentional change. HIT wanted something new to match the new style of the show and brought in new talent to keep things fresh. But I have to wonder why there was such a deviance. Surely Hartshorn could have done new music, but maybe redid the characters' themes in his own style just to keep things a little consistent with what
That
came
would have
before.
been cool.
Let's wrap up this section by talking about the narrators. I'll start with Michael Brandon.
Yep.
And I gotta say, I've never been a huge Brandon fan,
Yep.
but in Season 8, he's not bad. He's pretty good. I know the timeline of how production went in the early HIT era is a
First
little
time,
fuzzy,
really?
but this is the first season he narrated, I believe, before doing Season 7. So as a result, his
Definitely.
voice is a little more calmer and natural sounding.
But when Thomas
I know this
arrived at the
fact.
quarry, he had a nasty surprise.
Oh, it's you,
Oil Diesel.
What are you doing here?
I'm here to help Mavis, puffed Thomas
You got
proudly.
incredibly energetic.
Steamies can't help, not like a diesel.
That's not true, said Thomas crossly. Henry rolled up to the wishing tree.
Oh God, Henry's face.
He took
so
a deep
scary.
breath and made a wish, as hard as he could.
How do you wish hardly?
I wish I could pull the express instead of Gordon, he said.
He hasn't started doing the really annoying nasally voices yet, and all the characters sound pretty natural, with the exception of Gordon.
Now look what you've done, he wished. What will Sir Topham Hatt say?
Oh no, it's Chainsmoker Gordon! Oh no! I for real honestly couldn't care less about Gordon's Chainsmoker voice. I say it's whatever. It's whatever, fine. Don't really care. Although I do like the pompous voice that Michael Brandon gave him.
Wait. He didn't sound like that earlier.
Keep your smelly freight away from my passengers, grumbled Gordon.
Gordon's voice is so
Express is
inconsistent.
the longest passenger train on the island. I always cross the island twice by tea time.
Gordon's voice is so inconsistent, it's unreal.
Passengers and freight do not mix, puffed Gordon.
Ugh, Brandon. I found myself enjoying Brandon in the Pack episodes, and I quite liked him here. Was delightfully surprised by that. And now for the UK. After hearing how energetic Michelangelos was in the Pack episodes, I really wanted to believe that his slower delivery in Season 7 was a one-time fluke. But no, it's still very much the same here. This is a pretty boring season for him, honestly, where the enthusiasm just wasn't there. I mean, just compare his delivery here with Brandon's.
Wait for me! He cried. Please, wait! Help! Cried Percy. Murdoch has got my magic carpet!
Wait for me! He cried. Please, wait! Help! Percy cried. Murdoch has got my magic carpet!
Murdoch! I'm sorry, but what the fuck was that for pronunciation of Murdoch?
He has his moments, of course.
Hurry up, she wished. Not if you ask like that, sniffed Elizabeth crossly. When Thomas and Emily rolled by, they moaned and groaned. It sounded spooky.
They moaned and groaned. I'm kidding. I'm sorry, that's the one I'm talking about. This being sus. Just quite literally, my sister would take this stuff out of context all the time.
What was that?
And I guess you could argue his narration matches the new slower pace of these episodes, but it is a far cry from the previous energetic Angelus that we just had a couple seasons ago.
Yep.
Enter for your chance to win.
Oh my god! Characters who did stuff this year.
So, originally, when I first made this video, I omitted the part where I count the top 3 players of the season, as we're getting into the era where it's obvious who will be in first place, etc. But I figured it's better to stay consistent. So, here we go. In third place, we have James with 3 leads. In second place, we have a tie between Percy and Emily, with 5 lead roles each. And in first place, to no one's surprise, Thomas, with a grand whopping total of 13 lead roles.
Fuck
God
you.
almighty. Season 8 is the first season not to feature any new characters, and I think it's the only one ever not to. Isn't that insane to think about? This was intentional though, as they were firmly establishing the Steam team as a thing here, as well as the new minimized supporting cast, so they didn't introduce any new faces to take focus away from them. Let's just cover all the main characters here. They all range from pretty good to bafflingly out of character this year, and I think we can blame the Writer's Bible for that with its weird character bios.
Yep, definitely.
In this season, I think the one that has suffered the most from the changes is Thomas. Thomas has been redefined as a young character again, as a sort of everyman for young audiences, forgetting lessons that he's already learned in the past, such as being patient, and also giving him new traits, such as turning into a nervous wreck when his support system, Annie and Clarabelle, are not with him.
They're like, oh no, Annie and Clarabelle are not with me. I can't go around the bend, and then I killed all the passengers. I killed all the people on the freaking train. Oh no! freaking like that explosion in Thomas Saves the Day, like, or I actually forgot to get this name. I think that's the name. I'm pretty sure that's the name. I hope it is. But yeah, that episode, the freaking explosion in that crash is just like, bruh, what the fuck happened? He ran over a fucking bomb or what?
Something that was never an issue for him before. This going back on Thomas isn't totally a new thing, as they already started dipping their toes in this in Season 7.
I'll be honest, no, Season 7 is entirely reasonable. How he was acting a bit, like he was going pure. I mean, come on, and Andy and Clarabelle are like, come on, they like this. I'm crossing my fingers, but you can't see that. And then also this episode, something's the matter with Henry, or whatever, I forgot. I just saw that as like, I mean, it's been years since Henry's been ill, so yeah.
I feel this change to a younger Thomas was sort of inevitable the longer the show went on. You're far more limited with a main character who has completed his character arc years ago than one who is still impressionable and has much to learn. And as Thomas is supposed to be the everyman for the young audience, I don't think they really have much choice. I think the reason this is so bothersome to me is that they aren't consistent with it. In episodes where Thomas isn't the main character, he's depicted as a voice of reason, and everyone comes to him for answers and support.
God, I forgot about
Not to mention the colossal amount of screen time he gets in these hit seasons. Half of this season is all Thomas Spotlight episodes, literally.
Hold on, I'm sorry, I got thrown off with that Season 5 footage. That just smacked me in the face with just confusion, ugh. It was just so weird to see Season 5 footage on widescreen. That's weird.
13 of the 26 are Thomas episodes.
Oh god.
I totally get that he's the main character, but a little more variety would have been nice.
Yep.
Nonetheless though, he has a couple good episodes in this lot. I really like Thomas to the Rescue, an episode where he proves himself despite his fear of being replaced.
Yippee!
I also quite like Thomas and the firework display. His banter with James feels very true to him.
Hello, busted boiler, teases Thomas.
I've seen the meme on that where Thomas is bringing the breakdown train and James just cusses at him and then he leaves. This is I just get reminded of that every time I hear that.
You don't look very useful now.
I also like how they kept some of his character quirks consistent with previous seasons, such as hating wearing his snowplow and hating pulling fish trains. Both of which, funnily enough, are quirks that are mentioned directly in the Writer's Bible. Edward and Toby didn't fare much better. Both are really starting to settle into their vulnerable, pathetic loser eras. Where the others, or they themselves, think they're incapable of doing anything substantial.
Yep. Yeah, oh god, the digression from Toby, the Giga Chad, to Toby, the Soy Wojak. The same goes, and put the same goes for Edward. But Edward started earlier. And then even more forced in here.
Because they're different in some way. At least in their Spotlight episodes.
I hate Toby.
But Edward is old. And not as strong as the other engines.
Oh my god. Oh god, that actually killed me inside. No. Shut up, please.
He'll lose the race and let the whole railway down, said James.
Shut up, James.
Edward is old. Get it? That's his character now. Old, slow geezer.
But I'll never be able to do Edward's job, Toby cried. He's a proper steam engine.
Bruh, what the fuck?
Toby is a box, get it? He's weird and looks different. That's his character now.
Yeah, but it's literally in the song where they... Toby, wanna say he's square? Oh my god, that is so, bad. I'm not, bruh, what the fuck? They really regressed him so much, it's unreal. Even if Edward still got I say Toby's more regressed than Edward also, in fact. Because at least Edward, he got back up into true Chad. Toby's forever stayed like a pathetic loser. Then again, also Henry was also like that as well. But whatever, I'm gonna still say Toby is the worst of the bunch.
No self-confidence. They both come through at the end of each of their lead roles, proving the others wrong. And these two having these personal weaknesses is fine every now and then. But I really don't like these being their default when they get the spotlight, when both have so much more going on than that, and have already proved themselves as capable to the others time and time again before this. Percy was also on shaky ground this year. He really seems to have been recreated as the baby of the group, learning really silly things that should not be new to him. He learns to not whistle loudly. He didn't know this before. He's never heard of a railway inspector somehow.
The railway inspector arrives today.
What's a railway in spectacles? Percy asked.
And is
I was
also
fully expecting him to insert that meme he's been doing for the past for those other 2 videos. I was fully expecting that, but whatever.
forgotten how to pull coaches, even though he's seen with coaches this year and the previous. What is it with the green engines and coaches this year? He's still got some of the old Percy in him. I love how he gets fed up with Gordon and Gordon takes charge, only to show him up. I like that he entertains the idea that the carpet could be magic. And I like him getting angry at James for being late.
Wait, hold up, what? Huh? I'm sorry, he liked that aspect? That actually threw me off real quick. I was fully expecting him to be shitting on that so hard about the whole magic carpet thing. I was fully expecting that. And I mean, even I'll be real. I didn't mind that episode, to be honest. I found it fine, I guess. It was entertaining.
And then later teasing him when he gets his comeuppance.
I like your new coat of paint, he puffed cheekily. You do look splendid.
And then we have Henry. Oh boy.
Oh no.
On one hand, I love that they remembered his love for the forest, and it is so nice to see that side of his character being pushed more, to help differentiate him from the others. On the other hand, his more arrogant, big engine self is totally forgotten, as is...
Rest in peace, Green Gordon personality, and hello. Oh no, I can't do anything. Oh, I love pathetic engine. No.
Almost everything else that made Henry Henry. Now he's a more inept engine that solely pulls freight, that never ever pulls passengers and can't handle coaches.
Ah, yes.
Go gently, called his driver. You can bump freight, but you can't bump passengers. Sorry, puffed Henry.
With the show trying to push Emily more now, it seems like she's sort of replaced him as the third snooty engine in the big 3.
Oh God.
Gordon on a
I'm sorry, I didn't even notice that. Oh my goodness. She kind of did a bit. Now I know. Now looking back at it, freaking spick and span. It shows that itself. Like Henry is just like gone adios in that episode.
Lighter note, I think was handled pretty well. In some episodes, he is such a jerk and so belittling, like in You Can Do It Toby and Chickens to School. And then in others, like Squeak, Rattle, and Roll, he feels like the Gordon we know.
Baby.
Percy and the Magic Carpet is a good Gordon appearance in my opinion. He's so unimpressed with Percy's delivery.
Still trying to make your little job look important, he growled.
But when shit hits the fan, he jumps in to help save it. I like how in Edward the Great, he is such a jerk to Edward, which admittedly feels out of character, but later he feels bad about it, and he cheers Edward on.
Well done, Edward, he called. You are a credit to the railway.
I'll admit that this is stupid, bro. Dude was literally a few seconds ago was like, Edward is a waste of steam. He should kill himself now. And then all of a sudden, as soon as he passes by, it's like, yippee! Like, bruh. What the fuck?
Hey.
These are nice moments, really showing the big brother side of his character. I'm okay with this. I don't mind seeing snooty jerk-ass Gordon, as long as it's not the only side we get to see of him. And that goes for all the characters. Season 8 did a pretty decent job of striking a good middle ground with him. And then we have James, who is, as far as I can tell, pretty much the same he's always been. He's a character that's pretty hard to mess up, I think. I don't have much to say about him.
That's quite shown in the retrospective. No one seems to fuck up James. I think even in Blubba, I haven't watched it still, but like, even in Blubba, he's like fine, even though he's pushed aside into like heck, into irrelevancy or something. Also the scene right here reminds me of that person on Twitter who was like asking, where is this scene from like a promotional image.
I think all his appearances were pretty solid this year. James Goes Too Far is a pretty decent episode for him, which in my opinion feels almost out of season 1. James tries to prove his worth to Topham and becomes worried when he comes to see him after the incident he caused, only to receive praise for fixing the mistake on his own.
I'm sorry, sir, said James. I put my own job first. But you did learn your lesson and you helped Diesel. And you delivered your call on time. You, James, are a really useful engine.
I know some of y'all actually like that the Topham Hat voice, but I hate it. I'll be real. I hate how he sounds like this all the time with Michelangelo.
James nearly burst with pride.
Nice.
Explodes.
I also like the rivalry between him and Thomas in the fireworks episode. The Hit era played with these two a lot together. I'm all for it. But I think that the season's MVP award rightfully goes to Emily. Of all the characters, she is the one that really blossomed this year, making her gradual transition to main character status. Since they're trying to build her up, they gave her some stories that dug into her character. Episodes like Snowplow and Emily's Adventure showed that she can be rather bossy. And I'm gonna be honest, and I don't know if this will be a controversial opinion or not, I kinda dig this version of Emily.
Okay, that's it. I'm upset. I'm upset. Why can't I speak? Alright, that's it. I'm upset. What? Alright, that's it. I'm unsubbing to you, bruh. What the fuck?
I said before in the Season 7 video that Emily was kind of generic. So having her with more of a Lucy-inspired persona gives her more of an identity. It doesn't feel totally out of nowhere either. She was shown to have a moment in Season 7 where she calls the others out. My favorite Emily episode of the year is Emily's New Route, a story that plays on her still being kinda newish to Sodor and never having been to Blacklock. It also shows some of her fears and makes us feel bad for her. A nice contrast to the bossy Emily in the other episodes, showing she's not totally unlikable. Don't get me wrong, Emily is not devoid of bad episodes this season. Emily's Adventure, in particular, is pretty bad. But I think they overall did a good job of making Emily a unique character of her own. I feel like I really know her now thanks to this season. And that's why I believe she deserves the MVP award.
I mean, sure, whatever. What? Episode, the good, bad, and the sum up. Let's see this.
The standout episode of Season 8 is, and I think many of you will agree with me here, Halloween. Oh, come on, you all knew this one was coming, as if it could have been anything else. In a season where all the stories feel kinda samey, the one that is drastically different in tone and visual style is, of course, going to be the standout. This is a genuinely chilling episode, with a score that sends shivers down my spine. Sticking true to the Thomas style, I love that this episode is ambiguous with the supernatural. The characters learn over the course of the episode that ghosts aren't real, only for the final shot of the episode to show us otherwise. What is real, and what isn't?
Oh god,
Funnily enough, the US version of this episode uses a different ending shot, removing the ghost from it. Does anyone know why this was done? Did they really think having a ghost appear in the final shot was too scary for American kids? Oh, brother.
Wait, what? Huh? I actually didn't know this. Like, what? Hold on, I actually did not know this. I've only seen that ending for the US dub, for the US version, but the UK dub has that stupid fake ghost from FGTV. Oh, bruh. I was like, dang, I've never even seen that before.
As for the worst episode, well, we have a couple contenders. But my vote's going to Chickens to School.
Yes! Yes, thank you. My goodness, this is an absolute garbage episode. Like I remember actually, like I was like dying watching this episode. Like, like I'm so stupid. That's how Thomas. That vibe he gave off was just like, bruh, it made me hate him even more than I already
This episode
do.
is just dumb, and it makes no sense.
Yep.
In this one, Thomas has to make 3 deliveries, but he's so tired from working all night that he mixes them up. He delivers children to a farm, pigs to a market, and chickens to school. But he gets blamed for it? How is any of this Thomas's fault?
I actually didn't think of that. I didn't think of that being the stupid bit. I was thinking of Thomas being drunk and shit. I was being the stupid bit, but no. You know what, that's actually true. Topham, we should be blaming yourself for like giving him like 80 million like jobs to do. And then him doing an all-nighter, like bruh.
Humans unloaded the goddamn chicken cages for whatever reason. Isn't it their fault?
Yep. You know what? Yeah, we should also blame them as well for being absolute fucking idiots. Like, yes, we're gonna just drop off the freaking chicken out of school. What?
Thomas did exactly what a steam engine is supposed to do. Transport the train to its destination. Humans having a presence on Sodor is just totally foregoed here. They're just starting to become the engine's hands. Ironically though, this episode has my favorite moment of the entire season. Yes, it's the scene where Edward calls Gordon out. I also find Thomas and the Circus and Emily's Adventure to be particularly bad episodes, both for the same reason. They are repetitive and boring with blatant morals.
Yeah, but I hate the circus one as well. I started getting so annoyed with the freaking music in the background. Like it was just so like repetitive. Like the
We know exactly what the lesson is going to be 2 minutes in. The load is too heavy and Thomas needs to let others help him. And Emily needs to ask nicely to get what she wants. There are bright spots to both. I like the circus train and the circus performer props. They're very creative and colorful. And I like the storm sequence in Emily's Adventure. Sadly, I say both were wasted in what are very dull stories where nothing really happened.
Also, I'm just gonna talk about how this scene, how these scenes were also also filmed along with Calling All Engines, because this exact area is used, and those exact shots from the storm scene were used in Calling All Engines.
As for the sum up, I'm going to go with fish. I feel like if I were to give anyone who's never seen Thomas an idea of what to expect from the hit era, this one would hit everything to make note of. It's a Thomas-focused story where he does a job wrong, featuring gimmicky fish trucks where the fish are transported in open wagons, so it's visually clear to kids what they're carrying. Again, foregoing railway realism. A scene where the main character learns their lesson and the moral is stated, all complete with a pretty cool crash.
Also, rest in peace,
I feel like this is season 8 in a nutshell. Am I wrong?
Truck.
But my personal favorite episode of season 8 goes to Squeak, Rattle, and Roll. I really adore this one. It's a peak Gordon appearance in my opinion. That gets his character down perfectly. In this one, Diesel floats the idea that steam engines haven't much time left on Sodor, once Sir Topham Hatt realizes how clapped out they are. Gordon scoffs at this at first, until he notices himself start squeaking.
Diesel was right. I'm falling apart. What will Sir Topham Hatt say?
The more he squeaks, the more Diesel's words start to get to him. What if he really is falling apart? This worsens when he begins to make more strange noises that he can't explain, and the only way to suppress them is to go slowly. On the day he is meant to take a special to the docks with Topham on board, Gordon tries to suppress his noises, but realizes that he can't with Topham on board. In a grand moment of self-realization, Gordon proclaims this:
This might be my last trip, he said, but I'll get the children to their boat on time.
Yeah, that was very like dark to say. Like dude thinks he's going to die.
If today is going to be his last ever journey, then he's going to make it the best that he's ever had, and makes record time.
Yep.
In the end, of course, Topham says that he would never scrap Gordon, and sends him to have his noises looked at. We all know that Topham would never scrap Gordon.
Yep, I mean, of course he wouldn't. Also that image of like that out of context image I saw on Twitter once again, of like the description of that scene. It was so sus. It was unreal. I forgot it. If I have the image, I'll put it on screen right now. But like, yeah.
What the hell?
And that Gordon's fear was totally irrational. But it's the moment where he decided that he would go out with a bang that really did it for me. He's a very admirable character here, chalking him up to the legends of Edward, Skarloey, and Rheneas, when they all had similar moments in the past. A fantastic outing for Season 8.
Yippee! What's the word that he would describe?
The word that I would use to describe Season 8 of Thomas and Friends is milk toast. As a friend of mine put it, it is not completely bad on its own. But Season 8 is the unfamiliar taste of new Coke after knowing OG Coke all your life. And I think that sums up my feelings quite well. Seasons 1 through 5, and even 6 to 7, were all about discovering Sodor like an adventure, with each season opening up new parts of the world, and introducing new characters to fill those new areas. The show consistently built up its world, and watching the show develop over time was like a journey. Season 8 sort of feels like an abrupt halt from that, and is more focused on feelings and morals, and solely re-establishing the characters in this new vision. With Season 8, Thomas and Friends has become rather neutered, and I don't think this season has any chance of making the top 10 when I eventually rank all the seasons. Even so, I do get why people say Season 8 is the good one of the hit era. There are some good ideas in this.
Yeah, if I haven't, there's only literally like one episode, as I said, that made me cringe so hard. But even then, it wasn't screaming cringe. Like legit. I was watching some of the narrow gauge engine episodes in the hit era, and I was legitimately screaming from how bad they were. But yeah, this isn't bad. None of this is truly bad.
Character moments, good model work, and we haven't reached the abysmal 3 strikes formula yet. But I still don't think it holds a candle to the seasons past. I had my issues with Season 6, but at least it was always exciting, and it still felt like Thomas. Season 8 is very drawn out, and frankly, kinda boring. There's little moments that I enjoy. It's not totally devoid of interesting stories, but the majority of this run of episodes are slow and dull, with a very restrained cast of characters, and it doesn't exactly paint the future of Thomas and Friends under Hit's ownership with bright colors. I think our next look at Season 9 and onwards will be interesting. They're all a part of that middle era of the show that I hardly ever rewatch, and I'm curious in seeing what ways the next outing will improve upon Season 8, or be worse.
I imagine they'd be worse, especially those narrow gauge engine episodes, as I said before. Well, yeah, that's all there. That's the end of the video. So now, of course, what I think of Season 8 after watching this. Now I'll just play some like random footage in the background for right now. I honestly believe that, of course, agreeing with Unlucky Tug, Season 8 is not that bad. I will say it here, it is indeed the greatest of the hit era. It's a good season. Like it has its good moments. It's like the camera work was good. Like the score was also great. And then like some of the characters were also like when they showed their true self, it was amazing. But then again, there's also the faults of the hit era, where it's just like character degradation, morals being said out loud and stuff like that. as well as like also simpler language, dumbing down stuff, and all that. Pizzazz, whatever. But all in all, this, as I said, there's only one episode I really hated a lot, and then there was like a few other and there was like another one I watched where it was like where Thomas was like importing like the eggs and stuff. I was just confused because I had never heard of that episode. I'll be real. And I was just like, what is this? I was just more confused, if anything. Yeah, so that's basically all my thoughts on it. It's nowhere near, of course, the classic era, but it's nowhere near as shitty as it would later be. But yeah, that's of course my opinion. Again, you can have a different opinion. You could say that this is better than the classic era or something. I don't know, maybe you grew up with this and you still think this is good. I mean, I did. Yeah, I did, and now, but then again, this is my opinion, of course, and also Lucky Tugs. You can just have whatever opinion you want. And with that said, I say that's the end of this video. So, thank you guys for watching this very long reaction video. I'm sorry for how long it was. I just had a lot of stuff to say when watching this. So make sure you again also check out the Unlucky Tug if you don't subscribe to him. He makes such amazing like Tom and Friends content as well as like other general content, like stuff that he likes, kind of like me, like a bit. Like he made that whole video on the Incredibles, and that recently like hit like over like a million views, I think. But yeah, so just shows you he makes such amazing content. Just go check him out if you want to, and also of course check out the original video that I'll have linked in the description. So yeah, thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell to be notified whenever I upload another video. Hopefully not another reaction video. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!
All this time I would wait for a chance to be with you. Sing a tune with me and let's reach for the clouds in a balloon. The sky knows no bounds, your hand in mine, fates intertwined. Through the dark my voice will be your light. Take the lead, your melody is all I need. Have no fear, let the world feel our harmony.